A friend of mine recently asked me to forecast the sequel to the movie Demolition Man, which starred Sylvester Stallone as a no-nonsense police officer named John Spartan. Before we do the analysis, I'll provide a brief recap. The movie begins with Spartan dropping from a helicopter onto a building to capture the film's villain, named Simon Phoenix, played by Wesley Snipes. At the beginning of the film, the two men have a brief altercation before Spartan renders Phoenix unconscious. The building was rigged to blow by Phoenix, and he ignites some spilled gasoline before being knocked unconscious, and the fire causes an explosion. The investigation afterwards reveals that the bodies of 30 hostages were found in the rubble. Sergeant Spartan is sentenced to serve 70 years in sub-zero rehabilitation in the California Cryo Penitentiary with eligibility for parole in 2046. Phoenix is unthawed in 2032 and he manages to escape before he can be implanted with a tracking chip. He murders several people during his escape, which alerts the police department and they send officers to apprehend him. During his cryogenic incarceration, Phoenix received combat and computer programming, which he uses against the SAPD officers. These future police are not able to arrest Phoenix, and he effortlessly assaults the officers sent to catch him. The police conclude that Phoenix is too dangerous for the current training that they have, and determine that a cop from the past could be their best option. John Spartan is thawed out and reinstated to the police force. He soon learns that this place and time is very different from the era he remembers. The two men have several run-ins only for Phoenix to evade capture. Finally, they have their final showdown in the cryo prison. At the end of their brutal confrontation, Spartan gains the upper hand and freezes Phoenix with a cryo pellet, and then decapitates and shatters his body. With the brief synopsis concluded, we can move on to the analysis. The events of the movie in 2032 are initiated by Dr. Cocteau. He fears that a cultural revolution is beginning, and he takes steps to try and quell it. The movie shows us that some of the people of San Angeles are dissatisfied with the status quo. For example, anything not good for you is bad, hence illegal. Smoking, alcohol, caffeine, contact sports, meat, bad language, chocolate, gasoline, educational toys, anything spicy, abortion, and unlicensed pregnancy. Physical contact and fluid transfer are also taboo in Cocteau's utopia. Officer Lelina Huxley asks John Spartan if he would like to have sex with her. He agrees until he finds out that he can't actually touch her. When he suggests doing it the old-fashioned way, Lenina is repulsed by the idea of fluid transfer and kicks him out of her apartment. Spartan goes back to his apartment and receives a wrong number call from a naked woman. This sequence demonstrates that everyone does not have the same viewpoint regarding sex in the culture. The larger conversation of the movie has representatives along the societal spectrum. Some citizens are rigid guardians of the way things are, while others want anarchy. On the one extreme is Police Chief George Earle, who is a staunch defender of this socialist utopia. On the other end, Edgar Friendly, played by Dennis Leary, represents the chaos of impulsive liberal individualism. Lenina is a child of her era, and yet she is bored with the placid and uneventful society she lives in. So she turns to the escapist entertainment of the past and vicariously revels in its barbarism. Dr. Cocteau lived through the turbulent decades that occurred between the events after John Spartan was frozen in 1997 and when he was thawed out in 2032. He took the opportunity to seize control during the chaos and impose his utopian ideals onto a frightened and vulnerable city. Even if we choose to believe that the good doctor has only the best of intentions to preserve peace, it is undeniable that the personal cost is the forfeiture of freedom for every citizen. I believe the movie is showing us a society that has reached the end of its orderly utopian idealism. The death of Dr. Cocteau is the literal and metaphorical toe tag for this doomed joy experiment. Just past the midpoint of the movie, Phoenix confronts Dr. Cocteau in his office and informs him that 5 or 6 special men need to be defrosted in order to kill Edgar Friendly. We can only guess at what makes these men special, as the movie does not say anything more about them. Later, we see Phoenix and 7 men sitting around a table drinking and carousing. It is highly likely that these men were previous associates of his. Later, it is revealed that Phoenix wanted these men released so that he could kill Dr. Cocteau and take control of the city. Because of his programming, Phoenix can't kill the doctor himself, so he tells one of his henchmen, portrayed by Jesse Ventura, to shoot him. The death of the good doctor has created a power vacuum that will render the city leaderless. At the end of the film, Lenina shoots one of Phoenix's henchmen before he can stab John Spartan in the back, which leaves 6 others unaccounted for. So where do we go from here? If we consider all the evidence, then I forecast that a logical sequel for Demolition Man would look a little something like this. In the wake of Dr. Cocteau's assassination, I predict that Chief George Earl would try and use the police to take control of the city in order to try and preserve the status quo. In response, Edgar Friendly and his scraps would emerge from the underground and claim areas of the city above for themselves. Meanwhile, the 6 cryocons released by Phoenix would be trying to carve out their own territories. And in the center of it all, I see John Spartan and Lenina Huxley becoming vigilantes. They try to keep the peace, but find themselves increasingly at odds with all the factions. Eventually, the charm of all the violence begins to take a toll on Lenina. Her romantic ideas about the gunslinging 1980s have given way to the harsh reality of this rampant chaos. She and John will eventually go their separate ways. Lenina will rejoin the more militant SAPD and fight to reinstate a version of Dr. Cocteau's utopia. Edgar Friendly would continue to evangelize the citizens of San Angeles toward total anarchy, becoming an unhinged prophet of chaos. While the larger struggle goes on, John Spartan will become a Punisher-type anti-hero, hunting down the escaped cryocons while being the lethal enforcer of his own code of street justice. At the end of the sequel, I think the logical progression would see Edgar Friendly and Chief George Earl killed, as their extreme ideologies are too corrosive and polarizing for the new era that is emerging. I predict that a wiser but sadder Lenina Huxley will be democratically elected as the new mayor of San Angeles, setting up a more stable and accountable government in a city that is more mature but less happy and benevolent. John Spartan will learn of his daughter's whereabouts and that she left California before the troubles started. The movie's end will see him leave San Angeles to go and find her. That's gonna do it for the Demolition Man sequel forecast. Please like, share, and subscribe for more videos like this one. If you have any suggestions for movies that desperately need a logical sequel, let me know in the comment section below. Until next time.
Fuck you!